Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Valuco and welcome to Personal Pans, conversations about belief, transformation, and all of the weird and strange things we experience. Today's episode is with Amanda Woomer of the Feminine Macabre and Spook Eats, and this was an amazing conversation. I feel like I say that every time, but I mean it every time. If I had any idea that all I would have to do is start a podcast and then cool people would talk to me about their cool ideas, I would have done this years ago. I just didn't know. I just didn't know it would be so easy. Amanda and I talk about grief, ghost experiences, peeking behind the veil, dealing with ghost bros, and creating spaces for people of various walks of life to engage with the paranormal and feel safe doing so. This, as I said, was an incredible conversation, and I hope you enjoy it.
I love it that it does not let you be a super creep and it lets you know if someone's recording.
I love that too, because maybe it's from like working retail. I hate being surveilled. I just hate it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, no, just don't. I don't want it. Like, no.
Yeah. Please stop watching me.
Please stop watching me. I don't want to be watched. I say that I'm putting this on YouTube, and
You want to be watched when you want to be watched, and when you
That's
don't,
it.
you don't. It's something as simple as that. Yeah.
Thank you for understanding. And yes, that's exactly what it is. Like, if I want to talk about spooky and weird stuff, okay, this is fine.
Fine.
But again, I don't want a Zoom meeting or record unless I am the one recording it.
Unless I am the one. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you are already a month into Feminine Macabre Volume 3 submissions.
Yes.
How is that going?
It's going well. I was working on another writing project on the side that I literally just finished yesterday. So I had all of these submissions piling up. So I finally started reading through them again this morning. But the only way I've been able to do it with the last 2 volumes was keeping up on it every time submissions would be coming in. And I just had like this giant not pile, obviously, but just folder filled with files. I was like, oh my gosh. So starting to, clink away at that. So, but it's fun to see the variety of stuff.
Yes.
Just because like the very first volume was 90% hauntings and ghost stories, which is fine. Like that's my thing. But like, I wanted like some spice and variety.
Of course.
And of course. So now it's a lot. Like I just read one today about like astrology, which I don't understand anything when it comes to astrology, like rising signs and the moon and this, nothing.
Sure.
I don't understand it at all, but I read it and I was like, oh, that was actually really interesting. So there's
cool.
some unique things coming. So that's exciting.
I love that. Well, first of all, I love that you've created a space with the Feminine Macabre. And I love that it is an open and like inclusive space where people can talk about anything, where women can talk about anything. It's not like pigeonholed into, okay, we're only talking about EVP readings and other things like that. It's like, no, let's talk about magic. Let's talk about astrology. Let's talk about all sorts of cool things.
Yes, because I want to learn stuff too. I don't want to just talk about what I already am familiar with. Like I want to learn more stuff. Teach me things.
Of course. Exactly. Exactly. So speaking of teaching, for people who don't know, I feel like everyone who follows me should know, because I feel like I retweet every time you're posting calls, like, okay, submit to this. But for folks who don't know, can you just describe what the Feminine Macabre is?
Sure. So the Feminine Macabre is our new all-female and non-binary paranormal journal. And basically, it's just become a publication and a place where people can come and they can share their research or their theories, or the work that they're doing, things that they're just interested in, even and in various fields within the paranormal, metaphysical, the occult, whatever word you want to use. That includes tarot, witchcraft, astrology, cryptids, hauntings, folklore, death culture. So it's been really interesting to see it grow. Over almost a year now we've been doing it, and it was really important to me to create a place that didn't exist yet. in the paranormal community that's so dominated by men for some reason. But when I look around, I see a majority of women in this community. So it just seemed like a no-brainer. Like, why has no one done this up until now? But for those who are unfamiliar with the Feminine Macabre, that's basically it in a very small nutshell. And we're currently doing submissions for volume 3, which I wasn't even sure I would get enough submissions for volume 1. So I am very happy to say that we're on volume 3 now.
Yay. That's awesome. That's awesome. And like, I think that's what's cool too, because like what you said, I know so many like women, so many trans people, so many non-binary people, and so many brown people, like people of color. And where are they?
Where are they?
Where are they? It's like, it's so many of these conferences act like there are none of these people in the paranormal field. Whereas I just have to check my Twitter feed and I see, or the people in my contacts, and I, like, I know all these people. Yes. Well, it's frustrating too, because I feel like there's so much like, oh, this person was on TV, so just take them to another paranormal conference. It's like, but are they doing the most interesting stuff in the field? Like, do they have a unique perspective, or are they just bringing in people who watch TV? Like, okay, that has some value, but
the rest and it's hard because it's like, I always feel like whenever I see these guest lists at these paracons, it's literally always the same people, just recycled, and it's always the same every single year. And it's like, after a while, like if I was in attendance paying all this money to go to these conferences or these conventions, it's more of a convention than a conference, I would get sick and tired of seeing the same people over and over and over again. And especially for me, like, I'm a nerd. I like learning things. I like being taught like new information and new ways of doing things. And I feel like I'm not going to, take away the experience that people on TV have. They are doing a lot of work. They're working so hard, doing things that many of us can't even imagine. But I feel like the real work being done is in those grassroots groups and at those conferences and in those magazines and journals and books that, these people are self-publishing because no one else will believe in their work, so they're going to do it themselves to get it out there. And I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but I really feel like I'm so grateful for this community to be able to let people in this field connect with people aside from the straight white guys that you see on TV, so it gives you a whole new world to look at and a whole new point of view to look at things. I've gotten to know so many people, on Twitter and Instagram and just social media in general, people I've never met in my life, but I call them my friends, like we talk with each other, but it's, so I have such an issue with the conferences for, again, it almost always being straight white guys with a predominantly Christian background, when the paranormal is constantly changing, it's constantly growing and evolving. It's a friggin' tapestry of humanity, because it's basically humanity looking into the great void and seeing it looking back at you, so it's like, why is this not reflecting that? I could go all night long about this, that it's always the same people, it's always the same kinds of people. And I don't know, I'm hoping that within the next few years that things really start changing. Unfortunately, these larger conferences, they're here to make money, and the best way to have people buy tickets is to have those big names that everyone recognizes. And unfortunately, I feel like the work suffers because of it. People who are working hard and researching are not being able to share their findings or get their ideas known because they're not being given a chance that they very much deserve.
Absolutely. And I think to your point too, because like I think about, I've talked about this with other guests on the show, like if you look at everything from a Christian perspective and then you perceive everything as demons, right? Like my mom is evangelical, right? So it's either God or it's the devil. There's no in between. It is a very binary, like you're one or the other. And any even like interest in anything that isn't, you know, mainstream Christianity is demonic potentially, or
evil. You're going to hell.
Oh my God. I was teaching a class on tarot. It was tarot and creativity. And I told my mom about it and she's like, is that are you going to be okay? Is that evil? I was like, they're cards, Mom. They're cards. I think there's like this beautiful connection to something else. But like, again, when you have this like very narrow perception of like, well, this is demonic, and then that is the perception that's on television, you're just perpetuating this idea. And I think that's really dangerous, because I think there's this, like you said, it's us staring into the void, right? We're trying to figure out these greater mysteries and our place in the universe and what is going on there. And if you're only approaching it as this is evil, this is dark, this is something to be avoided, this is dangerous, what do you think is going to get reflected back, right?
Exactly.
And then I don't know, I just feel like you're just going to get people who are just keep putting evil energy into places because of that projection.
Yes, absolutely.
Playing with it.
And it will just continue. Like you said, it'll just perpetuate itself and just it's this vicious cycle that'll just keep going. And again, people won't have that chance to grow and evolve and change, as you should do as a person, as the paranormal should be able to do as a field. Right. So again, I'm hoping that as more people are able to, you know, self-publish and start podcasts and YouTube channels and really use social media to get these ideas out there, that hopefully your average everyday people will start to think like, oh, maybe the Ouija board isn't gonna make me get possessed by a demon. Maybe this isn't a demon. Maybe this is just energy or a potential person or, you know, a non-human entity, but non-human entity doesn't necessarily mean demon. Like it's just so, and I'm very recently detached from the Christian dogma. Like I was raised Christian. I was kind of off and on. I never bought into the, you know, good people go to heaven, bad people go to hell, heaven's a castle in the sky. You know, I always argued like, okay, here I am, I'm an okay person, but like there's the Dalai Lama. He's a little bit of a better person than I am, but because I was born in America and I was raised with the right religion, I'm going to go to heaven and he's going to go to hell. Really? That doesn't make sense. So, and for me with my paranormal journey, I really got into researching things in 2015 after my brother passed away. And that was earth-shattering for me and soul-crushing. And it was the sort of thing where, you know, broken down to nothingness. And now I'm slowly rebuilding. And I've realized like, no, that none of that worked for me. I knew from a very young age that none of it worked for me. And you know, as I've been growing spiritually and within the paranormal community and stuff, I feel so much fuller, I don't know, or more whole as a person. So I, you know, so I'm like a newbie at this, like trying to like dabble and figure things out. I've always been like, I'm not really buying into it, but I went through the motions because that's what, you know, was drilled into my brain. But I'm happy that, obviously I'm not happy that my brother passed away, but it was that, you know, that was the catalyst that really set me down on this path. And if it's like a collateral blessing of sorts, I'll take it, I guess. I don't know. So there, oh my gosh, there's so much I want to say to this. I'm so glad you're on. Because I was like a dabbler in the occult and paranormal for pretty much my entire life. Like my mom is a Christian, as I mentioned, but she's super into astrology, like even still. So that's how I knew my chart, you know, and my planets, and could kind of talk with some fluency about it. She never went to church, or very rarely. She's just not a churchy person, you know. But kind of stepped away from all of that in like college and, you know, in the work world.
And it was actually after the passing of my boyfriend in 2017.
Oh yeah.
He passed from pancreatic cancer. And very similarly, like I'm not happy he passed, but that I can see that as like a demarcation point to like,
Yep.
oh look, now I'm like first of all, found everybody on Twitter who's awesome, you know,
Yeah.
like because there was I avoided so much of like paranormal and occult circles because I was just like, these are all a bunch of racist and misogynist white dudes, and I hate this. So I'm just gonna do weird stuff by myself,
Yeah.
which is safe. And then suddenly I met all these wonderful people who have open minds about things and who want to talk about things and who aren't, you know, that like this is a demonic or this is whatever materialist, like, okay, well, UFOs are actual crafts and or Bigfoot is a real primate. It's like, no, let's talk about what these things could be and what they mean and what the experiences are. Like, I'm more interested in like the anthropological experience of this, right? Than just like, no, we gotta find Bigfoot. Like, really, friends?
Do we really want to?
Right?
It's the more fun. It's more fun to like be on the hunt than the actual catch. Come on, guys. Like,
exactly. Well, and also this idea of like the hunt and the journey and the learning and the exploration. Like, what are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about humanity? What are you learning about your place in the universe? And what you can interact with? Like, do we really want to say these like non-human intelligences are like aliens? Or maybe it's like creatures in higher or different dimensions. Or different frequency. Timelines. Exactly. Yes. That's so much more interesting to me, these explorations, rather than like, no, ghosts or demons. They haunt places. Like, oh, friends, we have big brains. We can use them.
Let's use them.
Right. Like you can, like, again, I love woo-woo stuff, but you can be kind of scientific about it. There are ways to do that and at least have a certain like critical sensibility about it.
Yes.
And a questioning, like, okay, well, I thought this meant this. What about this? What if I add this little bit of information? What if I read this book and it has a totally different perspective on this thing? How do I incorporate that?
It's the endless curiosity. Just stay curious.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Like you're always going to have more fun on the adventure. Than on just like sitting in a room, you know? I often think about the end spoilers of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series, right?
Oh, like, that's not a spoiler. It's like 70 years old.
Yeah, I know. Good point. It's the last book, which Last Unicorn, I think.
No, not the Last Unicorn.
No. Oh yeah, what is it called? No, whatever.
Horse and His Boy? Is that's one of them?
That's what I'm thinking of. I think so. Yeah, Last Unicorn is different. Anyway, last book. They're in like heaven and these dwarves are in hell, right? But they're just in the dark and they think they're in the dark and they've convinced each other that they're all in the dark. They're in the middle of this field in like the heaven substitute, but because they're convinced they're in hell and they're just in this dark room, they can't see what's around them. And that's kind of my feeling about people who are like really nuts and bolts, like into their beliefs about like, this is what this is. Like, but there could be a cooler thing just over the hill.
You don't know.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, it's just like having blinders on or like cutting off a limb, like, you know, cutting off a piece of the potential of what could be.
Exactly.
You know, don't limit yourself. There's plenty of other things that will try to limit you. Don't let it be you.
Oh my God, truth bomb. Yes, exactly. We live in a world that is constantly trying to throw limits on us and what we do and how we think and what we think. Like, don't torture yourself with that.
Exactly.
That's such a good point.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Amanda.
That was like a fortune cookie.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So wise. So you mentioned research. I would like you to talk a little bit about Spook Eats. Because I think everybody should know if they don't.
So Spook Eats is my website. It's kind of what got me started with the paranormal. And it was kind of festering in my brain for a few years, to use a terrible term. But it was just in my mind, the back of my mind. I was doing other things at the time. And then after my brother passed away, that was when I really kind of just like, threw my inhibitions to the wind and just thought, let's just try this out. And it really came from the fact that when I was looking to go to haunted locations to try to find answers about life, death, what the heck comes next, I would try to go to these haunted locations. And I found that a lot of times the main places that people know about are really difficult to access on your own. You have to go on a tour group. You have to be a part of a team. You have to pay a lot of money. I didn't have a team. I didn't have any experience, and I'm not wealthy in any way, shape, or form to spend hundreds of dollars to be in an abandoned building for 8 hours. Wow. So that's why I turned to haunted hospitality, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels that they're already open. Right. They have just as much history as the places that you might see on TV. Mm-hmm. And they have so many amazing stories. And I always joke saying, like, they have heat and electricity and plumbing and food. So it's far more enjoyable to visit these locations than the haunted jails or asylums or hospitals or orphanages. Right. So that was kind of the start with Spook Eats. I really started highlighting these haunted restaurants, bars, and hotels. And my hope with it still is, it was hard when COVID came and restaurants and bars shut down and I couldn't travel anywhere. Right. But my hope to be able to eventually continue this is to kind of create a map of sorts for people to be able to kind of pick a city that they're traveling to and find the restaurants, bars, and hotels. And, if I share the history and the ghost stories, as well as the food and the drink, and they could potentially go on their own paranormal adventure and come to their own conclusions about a location or about hauntings in general. Mm-hmm. I think so many times people, like we've kind of already talked about, they just swallow what they see on TV and mm-hmm. accept it as the truth. Yes. Whereas I feel like the paranormal is so personal, and nobody can find these answers to your questions but yourself. So, mm-hmm. Get up off your couch, turn off your TV, go outside mm-hmm. and go to these locations. So like my very first book was a haunted atlas of Western New York. Yes. And it was a map for places or for people to go to these locations. Mm-hmm. So that was basically the start with Spook Eats. Since then I've really evolved into the feminine macabre. That is my baby. Yeah. That is my passion project. Yes. Like, I don't want to say that Spook Eats has kind of been put on the back burner, but I just feel like when I first started Spook Eats, there was nothing else quite like it. Nobody was really focusing on haunted restaurants or bars, mm-hmm. And focusing on the food and the ghost stories. Now there are a couple of other websites, other places, other profiles that are doing that. So I really feel a pull towards the feminine macabre, where it's like, no one is doing this, and this is so important. Yes. So I'm glad, like with Spook Eats, I was able to really kind of like get my footing and find a place within the community and make those connections. And now I feel like it's the perfect point to leap off into the feminine macabre. Not that I am forgetting Spook Eats at all, but
of course.
But I just, in my heart and soul, it's just the feminine macabre is just so important to me. And being able to connect with the researchers, the writers, the women in these books and within this community, whether or not some of these people are included in the journal, they're still so passionate about it mm-hmm. and so encouraging. It's this, I always joke, I'm like, it's kind of like a family. It's kind of like a coven. It's kind of like a cult. And I'm okay with all of it.
With all of it. Exactly. Because it's like, you just did a thread the other day on Twitter of just like tagging women in the field. Like, it's not like they're like, no one's out there,
Exactly.
It's just, if they're not getting signal boosted, you don't know about cool people doing really interesting things. And so it's important, like you said, okay, so you didn't get into the journal this time, right? But you connect with all sorts of other people who are like-minded. And again, that is so important to just broaden the conversation, broaden the field, broaden the topics. Like, let's get together and do weird shit, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
interesting weird shit, not
Yes.
just the same.
Not just weird.
Oh boy, no. Gotta be a little careful with that.
Yeah. Oh. No, but and like that in particular, that particular tweet was a little snarky on my part, because it started with like, hey, if anyone is planning on hosting a Paracon and you're looking for some women, here's 50 of them, and it's like, I get so annoyed. And I know we've already talked about it where, with these conventions, it's always the same people, but take away the really big ones that always have the TV personalities, even the smaller ones where the guests that they're bringing, they're not on TV, they're not headliners, but for whatever reason, it's at least 75% straight white guys. And honestly, lately I've been seeing, and it's really bothering me, that if a woman is included, she is matched with a man, whether it's her partner, her boyfriend, her husband, whatever. She can't be there on her own. She's got to be with someone else. And I'm like, that's how the TV shows are. All of the TV shows, there's a woman, but there's also a guy like co-starring with her. Even historically speaking, a lot of times the women researchers are overshadowed by the men in their lives, whether it's their husbands or someone working in the same field as them. So it's like, it's history repeating itself, and it drives me bananas.
Well, exactly, because again, we're nearing the end of 2021 here, and you think we would have learned something about that, but you're still dealing with like movie studios who don't understand that, like, hey, if you have a diverse cast, more people are going to go see it because people want to see themselves, right? More people are going to be involved in a field if they can see themselves in that field, right? Like, I got really excited when you started the Feminine Macabre because I thought, I can publish somewhere, like, that would be amazing, I will at least submit, right? So there's it's this belief that I think a lot of people have that women can't convey a certain amount of authority on a subject. And again, we see this everywhere in society, where women typically have to know more, be better educated, and present a certain way to get half as respect as a man does in the same field, right? So that perpetual frustration of just like, I just want to be evaluated on my work, please. And I want to at least be given a chance based off of my work, as opposed to just being completely have doors closed, right? And like
never even open.
You're right. They're just locked right in front of you. And it's like, true. No, you don't belong here. You don't belong in this space.
Move along.
Right. And it's none of my like non-weird friends understand. And I have friends who are like into anime, and not that I'm not, but like anime, comic books, all sorts of that stuff. And I tell them about like bigotry in the paranormal field, and they're always floored, because it's like, but it's like fairies and Bigfoot and UFOs and ghosts. I'm like, and there's a lot of trash in this field, unfortunately. So many good people. But and again, I feel like a lot of us have found each other and created this incredible community online. But a lot of the voices that get amplified are terrible and are spouting terrible politics, terrible social views, and just kind of brainwashing their audiences.
And I think it's the people that have the most sensationalized ideas, and they're the loudest ones. So of course it's going to either get likes and comments or shares or views or whatever. And again, all of that equals money. And, like when Spookies first started, I was approached by a couple of agencies to do a TV show potentially, which was super cool. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, now I've learned that many of the women in at least the paranormal, like the ghost hunting community, have experienced this as well, that they would sit down with agents or with production companies and be interviewed and stuff, and they'll send away their pitches and stuff, and it always comes back, women don't make good TV. That is what it is. And it's like, what does that even mean?
What
like,
does that mean? Yes.
What does that mean? Like, because we're not, like, if we were doing this in our bikinis, would that be better?
Right.
Or, like, it's just like we would be doing the exact same thing that men are doing, just not as aggressively. Some people, I'll just
Right.
leave that as it is. But like,
right.
like, do you want people in really tight black shirts running through asbestos buildings screaming demon? Because that's it seems to be a theme right now. Like, or do you want people who are actually passionate about this and in it for genuine reasons?
Right.
Like,
yes,
it doesn't make good TV. It would be boring.
I hate this because I feel like because so much content has been geared towards this like sensationalized, it's a demon, it's turned off so many potentially thoughtful viewers who would be more loyal viewers.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating to me because like I want something that's more nuanced. Like I don't need to see Bigfoot tracks, right? I don't need to see like UFO lights. Like I want to hear what people are talking about, because I think that is the interesting thing, right? It's our engagement with whatever it is we're seeing and experiencing.
Yes.
And the effect it has on us. Like that to me is the most interesting thing and kind of the closest we can get to like whatever potential truth is out there.
And that's what I was just going to say. Like that is the reality.
Yes.
Like is our reaction to what we're experiencing. That's palpable. You can see that, you can hear that, you can experience that personally. So that's the closest you, at least right now, that's the closest that you can potentially get to that. Yes. So I'm glad you said that. I was going to chime in.
Thank you. Because again, this is what I think about. Like because some of the ghost shows are there's a spooky thing in here. Oh, I gotta look at what's going on. But some are a little more thoughtful and interacting with the people who are occupying a place that they think is potentially haunted, right? And again, you probably understand this as someone who's experienced death. That is, when you lose somebody close to you, that has an effect on you as a person as you walk through life, right? And what kind of energy you're bringing to every interaction. And like if you're living in a place, like that place is gonna carry some of that for you.
Absolutely.
So if you are researching a haunting and you're not looking at like who is in that place, what they're going through, how they're interacting with each other and that space. Because I do think there are some spaces that are a little more open, right? Like there's a little more energy, they're more charged. But because they're more charged, they're going to have a bigger effect on the people who are in that space.
Yeah.
So talk to the people, right? Talk to them.
Yeah.
Then you can get the EVP meters out, like whatever you want to do, but you have to have that human component or else what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like we are the subjective lenses to this phenomena, right? What we have to say is important than just what like the technology picks up.
And I think like it's so big too with like, stopping the narrative of everything is a demon, everything is evil, or, because at least the way I see, when I go to a haunted location, I see it as I am talking or interacting with a person. If you are a kind person in life, you will be a kind person in death. If you were an asshole in life, you're going to be an asshole in death. That's all it is. It's not demons. It's just people and people's energies. Right. And like, for me, like when my brother passed away, I'm not sensitive in any way, shape, or form. The amount of experiences that I had with him were mind-boggling to me. So for me, this is such a personal journey, kind of like what I mentioned before. It's so personal. And I feel like some people get into the paranormal for the notoriety, for the likes and the views. They do it for the sensationalism of it. Whereas if you find those people that are doing it more so for themselves and to answer their own questions, those are the people that are making waves and doing such good within the community and within the fields. Those are the ones that you want to look after and latch onto in a way, because I really think if there are any breakthroughs to be made within this field, they're the ones that are going to be doing it, not the ones chasing demons with their meters and their gadgets and gizmos. It's going to be the ones that are really, their heart is in the right place.
Yes.
That they approach it with respect and honor with whomever they are talking to. So I really, and you know, I think with Twitter especially, like, and this community, that I feel like all of the good weirdos are all like finding each other. And like there's a reason for that, because I do feel like there is like this frequency that people are on, you know, high frequencies and low frequencies. And when you find that frequency where you're in this for the right reasons, like your heart is in the right place, that I just think it's a magnet and people come together. So yes. Just a ramble as I was going. I was like, I know there's a reason why I'm talking about this, but it's just I don't have a paranormal team. I am a lone wolf through and through. Like I've always done this on my own. So it's always very isolating. And every so often you do have that imposter fear, and you wonder, like, you know, is it a clique and I'm not a part of it? And do I have friends? Do people think I'm cool? You know? And it's like, you know, and that's not the point. But when you do realize that people are seeing the work that you're doing and they admire it, and they also admire you, and the work that you're doing, it's just it can be such a nice environment and community. Of course you have drama in every subculture that you have. Of course there is.
There's no drama like nerd drama. There's no drama like nerd drama. It is.
The passions run deep.
It's true.
So, but I just like anyone who's watching this and stuff, I just really like, this would be nothing without the community, whether it's, you know, my paranormal journey personally, and the relationships that I've made on the way, or the feminine macabre. You know, I always joke saying I was going to pretend to be 30 different women and write the feminine macabre by me. And I didn't have to do that. And the only reason why I didn't have to do that was because men and women were, you know, bringing me on their podcasts and sharing the information. They were doing YouTube videos and writing articles about it. The only reason the feminine macabre is a success is because the community wants it to be a success. And that gives me so much hope for the field as a whole, that maybe in the next few years there is going to be that shift. We are going to have an all-female TV show, and we are going to have more women included at these conventions and conferences, and there is going to be more representation for not just men and women, but also, you know, people who are trans and non-binary and all of the colors of the rainbow. And you know, it's like you're just holding out hope for it. And I do think it's coming. I feel that shift coming. Hopefully it comes sooner rather than later, because I'm getting impatient.
Oh gosh, I understand completely. Yes. But I think I like, so the two things that you said kind of struck out to me, and I think they come together. This idea of like, you know, again, finding your frequency, finding your community, and then, but also like doing the thing that is most true to your path. Right. And I think that like you're saying, like certain people get into the paranormal field because they're trying to like chase clout with like the paranormal, like really, you know, there are
like
other ways.
You're sitting in a room by yourself talking to the air in the dark
where it's cold. Like you said, there's no food there. You're in like an old jail or an asylum somewhere.
There's probably no bathroom. You're probably peeing in a bucket.
Yay. Exactly. Yay. Rats everywhere. Awesome.
Yay. Yeah,
but like but if
it's happened,
of course, yes, makes sense. I know, I want to ask you more about your ghost hunting adventures, but just this idea that like I think a lot of people, when they're trying to decide like, okay, I want to make a mark in a community or something, as opposed to thinking about like, oh, I have this personal journey that I need to go on, or this personal drive that I have in me to create something that I've never seen before. Right. And what's the paradox is everybody, because I used to take improv classes. I know a lot of performers, and I know a lot of like comedy kind of content creators, and everyone who tried to pander to what they thought people wanted failed, because you can read insincerity in something Whereas as weird as whatever people thought of it, if it was authentic, it resonated with people.
Yeah.
People got hooked in because A, they want to see somebody genuine on screen, first of
Yeah.
all. And B, if you're doing something authentic that hasn't been given a voice before, chances are there are lots of other people who think that thing or feel that thing.
Mhm.
And because of imposter syndrome and whatever else, they haven't done it themselves. They're like, oh, this person gets it. Like, I'm going to follow them on Twitter because I am tired of being alone in my head about this, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's cool to see people who are doing things and taking risks and doing original things as opposed to, you know, tight black shirts, chasing demons and all of that.
Yes. Oh yeah, the stereotype.
It's unfortunately true in a lot of cases.
But I was gonna say it's not a stereotype because it's a thing.
It's exactly a thing. Yeah. When you see it a lot, you're like, oh, okay, this is the thing now. All right,
Wow,
interesting.
I'm seeing it in real life. It's fine.
So speaking of real life, I want to know about your ghost adventures. You don't have to talk about anybody toxic unless you want to. But you can talk about the
spill some tea. No.
only if you want to.
No.
We can cut that from the podcast. But like, what have been some of the better, I mean, more like impactful kind of investigations that you've been on?
So my number one story that I always tell, and sometimes it's disappointing for people, but other times people cry. So I don't know if that's disappointment as well. So it's a very heartwarming story.
Yes.
And again, I'm a huge believer that with the paranormal, like you're connecting with fellow humans that are just not physically here anymore. So the paranormal does not have to be scary. It can be this beautiful, touching, heartwarming thing.
Yeah.
So like I've said a couple times now, my younger brother, Jed, he passed away from pediatric cancer in 2015. Yeah. So you said cancer. I was like, fuck cancer. I don't know if I can say that.
Oh, you swear as much as you want on this podcast. Good. Yes.
Fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer.
Like,
yes.
So there was a theater company that I'm a part of it. My parents are a part of it. My brother was a part of it.
Yeah.
And we started in 2005 and he passed away in 2015. So he was there for a full 10 years. And he ran that place. He was the king of the castle. It was his clubhouse. And when he did pass away, I mean, it shattered the theater community, you know, it just completely shattered them. Yeah. The owner's kids were like, you know, other brothers and sisters for Jed and stuff. So it was very, very hard. 2 years after he passed away, we were doing a ghost hunt there with just a bunch of theater members. So it was people that we all knew each other. We were all comfortable with each other. And it was the first time we were really doing any sort of paranormal investigation there. And I remember I was down in the basement. I was there with two other women. We all kind of went our own separate ways because we all wanted to try different things. And I just started doing an EVP session. That's the only thing I'm good at with paranormal investigations. Okay. I can't like pick, nothing ever shows up in pictures for me. I never get anything on video. Yeah. I get EVPs. I love doing EVPs. I love doing the questions. I love listening to them. Amazing. So that's what I was doing. Yeah. And so while I was down in the basement and I was in the middle of, you know, this EVP session, I just, for whatever reason, it was put on my heart to talk to Jed. And I've never done it before, and I haven't done it since. Just because I think it's a very slippery slope. You could become completely obsessed with it.
Totally. Yes.
I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, I just, in that instance, I was like, dude, like, are you okay? Like, I just need to know that you're okay.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was thinking, you know, I'm here tonight. My mom's here tonight. You know, his best friends and, you know, their dad, everyone that Jed loves is in the same building. Like if he's gonna be anywhere, why not here? So I was doing this EVP session and I just said, you know, dude, are you okay? And I got an answer. And I didn't know it at the time. Obviously, you go back, you know, weeks later and you listen back months later, sometimes in my case. But I got a voice. It sounded like his voice from when he was about 11 years old. He passed when he was 19, but his height of like his career at the theater was when he was about 11.
Okay, yeah.
And the voice says crystal clear, "I'm fine." And I was like, holy shit, like, this is amazing. Well, that same night, a woman that was also at, on the investigation, she was snapping pictures on her cell phone, and she got a picture of Jed in literally the exact same spot I got the EVP. I mean, and it is, this photograph is,
God.
it's mind-boggling to me. Like, when I first saw it, I almost whacked the phone out of her hand because it was so jarring.
Of course.
It's basically a carbon copy of a family photo that we have from like his first day of school from like 5th or 6th grade. You see his long brown shaggy hair, you see his bangs, you see the collar of his shirt, you can see that he's got a green t-shirt on, you can see his backpack. It is freaky. It's so weird. But to have an EVP of his voice is cool in and of itself. And then to have this photograph is cool in and of itself. But to have them both in the exact same place on the exact same night was just, I said jokingly, like, I never need to get anything ever again. This is all that I needed.
Oh my God, yes.
So that is the coolest thing. And nothing has ever topped. Like, I've had some cool experiences since then, but that has just been so amazing. And it made me feel like I'm on the right trajectory. Like, this was helping me. I was very much struggling with everything in life at that point. And that was so helpful. Like, some people start going to church after they lose a loved one. Some people go to the bar. I go to haunted locations.
I like your option. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was just so gratifying, not even gratifying, that's not the right word, comforting. It was so comforting.
Of course.
And like, since then, like, I carry the picture on my phone, and like, if I'm ever talking to people, because ghost hunting comes up in random conversation with strangers, of course, but every so often, like, I've shown people this photograph of either people who have lost a loved one and they're struggling, or people who are very skeptical of the paranormal and life after death or whatever. And I show them this picture, and it always makes people stop and scratch their heads, which is all I ever want. I want you to stop and think.
Yes, exactly.
So that is hands down my favorite encounter, favorite story, favorite experience.
Of course.
Like, I've had creepy experiences. I've had other cool, experiences that made me stop and wonder, what was that? But that was just so, 2 pieces of actual evidence that I mean, I can't come up with a logical explanation for either of them. Of
course.
And I don't want to necessarily.
Yeah, there's that too. Yes, exactly.
So,
and that's amazing. And it's kind of like, how, like you said, how can you top that ever? Right.
Yeah.
And also, like, again, how beautiful that the thing that you needed most in that moment, you got.
Yeah.
I mean, you told me this and about the photo, and then just like chills up my back and my skull, because I've had situations like that where you're like, this is not normal. I am being told something, like something is being directly communicated to me in this moment. I don't maybe necessarily know what that is, but there's something else going on. And you have that awareness of, oh, there is more going on in this universe than these nuts and bolts things that we're all kind of trained to think about. There's a whole other world out there.
And it's so comforting when you do have kind of like that peek behind, like, everything like that's physically like in your way, distracting you. And like, every so often that just dies away, and you actually, I don't know, you just get that reassurance that there's more to it. And again, you're on the right path. Keep wondering, keep searching, because eventually you might crack the code, even if it's just for yourself. Nobody else has to believe the things that you're experiencing or your theories or your research, as long as it's for you and it is helping you on your journey. That's all that matters. If other people along the way like what you're doing and it helps them, awesome. That is a bonus. But as long as it's for you, I think that's the best way to never get discouraged, because I think it's so easy for people to rip apart other people's work and nitpick and put down. So if you're just doing it for yourself, who cares what other people think? If you're convinced like what you're doing is right, and you're finding, evidence and not necessarily proof, but, things are lining up with your theories and your ideas, for me, it gives me so much comfort knowing that the idea that I've created for what potentially comes next, every time I have an interesting interaction, it just kind of confirms it for me, which again is a comfort, because what I was raised to believe, at least I feel like, was proven to not be that way at all. So now I'm start at square one trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
That's exactly it. Yes. Well, so like I said, similar experience. So when my boyfriend passed away, like I was there in the hospital with him, and after he stopped breathing, like he physically died, but I still felt his energy and I still felt his love. And I was just struck by like, oh, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. Like, again, what I was raised to believe, no, there's not a castle in the sky. There is something so much more sophisticated and beyond our understanding that is occurring, and is occurring in front of us if we really are open to it and pay attention to it. Like you said, we get these little glimpses, you know, like I have Kali like everywhere, but there was this nun, Sister Nineveta, and she wrote this little book called Kali the Mother. And in it, she talks about like, we're always like looking for glimpses of the mother. And every once in a while we catch a glimpse. And like, to me, that's like the beauty of the paranormal journey, is that like every once in a while you catch something out of the corner of your eye and you're like, oh, I saw something very important that people typically don't see, or that we're not supposed to see. Because like you said, everything around us focuses in a different direction. And then you just know, you're like, oh, I got a glimpse. I got a glimpse. I can carry this with me for a long time. And
I just feel like it's so much more personal too. Like whenever people tell me like, oh, well, Jed's looking down on you, it's like, well, that makes him feel like a million miles away in the stupid castle in the clouds. That's not comforting in any way, shape, or form. So for me, it's like, so many of the interactions that I've had with him since he's passed away have been, he is literally right here being like, hello. Like, that's what it feels like. That it's like, they're not, in the sky somewhere looking down on you. They're literally right next to you, showing you those glimpses, and kind of like, at least I feel like, guiding your spiritual path, and showing you the things that you really need in those instances, and maybe denying you some things so you can figure it out on your own. And it just seems so much more personal than, oh, well, they're a heaven now, or they're an angel, or it's like, well, no, like that's not comforting in any way, shape, or form for me. So I love the idea that it's literally right next to you. You just can't see it. And this physical, like the meat suit and everything is just, it's all a distraction. And like you said, you get those glimpses every so often. If we use the idea of the veil might blow to the side a little bit, and you catch a glimpse every so often. So it's been fun going on this journey. I'm only 6 years out from losing Jed, and it's like, I really only started letting myself dabble, we'll just say, since like 2018. So I'm still very much like, oh, like, let me try a little bit of this, let me try a little bit of that. And I think that's the best way. I feel like all religions and spiritual paths, there's a bit of truth in all of it. You got to dig through the bullshit to find that nugget, and then add it to kind of like your patchwork quilt of beliefs. And I don't know, again, I could ramble all night about this,
and I love it, because you are so much fun to talk to. And again, talking about frequencies, like, I think we think very similarly about these topics, right? Because again, it's not just that there's like little nuggets in all these different religions. It's like, there are different things that are going to, that you connect with, like in terms of the paranormal or whatever, that like other people might not see, like you said, you're really good with EVPs, but you can't take photos of certain things. Like, I feel like I don't see things, but I like in I'll have like weird dreams, and I'm like, this felt like a visitation from a dead relative, So again, we're all that human element, right? We're all experiencing these things in different ways. And if we can come together and talk about those different experiences, we can get a bigger picture about like what is potentially going on than if we're all just kind of narrowly in our own lane, you know? Yeah.
100%. And I think that, you know, not only personal journeys, but also just like the paranormal community in general, you know, people have their areas of expertise. I'll use the word, even though people hate the word expert in the field. You know, but like, you know, people are researching different ways of thinking and different ways of researching. And again, it's that whole thing, you know, be a patchwork quilt, learn a little bit from this person, read this book, watch this documentary, and you know, come together to get this all-encompassing view, because again, it's endless. The possibilities are they're endless. There's no rules to this right now. So now is the time to be frivolous and experiment and take those chances. And what do you have to lose? You don't have anything to lose. So
such a good point. Exactly. Like go on your personal journey, because what do you have to lose? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could talk to you literally all night. We've already talked for almost an hour.
I
if
know.
you believe it or not. So I don't want to take up the rest of your night. So if there's anything that you want to plug, I mean, Feminine Macabre, obviously. But yeah, just tell us all where we can find you and your work.
Sure. So my website is spookeats.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's all at spookeats. I do technically have a TikTok, but I am way too old for TikTok. I've tried it a couple times and I'm like, I'm part of the geriatric unit. I can't do this. So forget me on TikTok. I haven't been on in months. But then the Feminine Macabre also has its own Instagram account, and it's just, you know, at the Feminine Macabre. And really, my biggest thing that I want to just encourage people is, if anyone who's listening and you identify as female, which that's, you know, cis or trans, or non-binary, I really want to encourage you to at least go to spookeats.com/feminine macabre and read the submission guidelines. I really want to encourage people. We don't care if you aren't a paranormal investigator, or if you've never been on a ghost hunt before. That was one person said they didn't submit because they've never been on an investigation. I was like, who cares? Like, I was like, we don't care if you've never been published before. You know, basically, if there's a topic that you're passionate about, write an essay on it is basically what I have told people. I'm like, just pick a topic you're interested in, research it a little bit, and send us something. You know, I really want to encourage everyone to just take that chance. You know, we're always trying to, you know, include new people. The last volume we had an artist involved. So if you know, do artwork surrounding the metaphysical, the occult, the paranormal, photography, anything like that, you know, I want to find a place for you within the Feminine Macabre. So definitely reach out, go through, read the guidelines. Submissions are open until January 1st for volume 3, but then we'll have volume 4, I'm sure, in the future. Of course. So, but I just really want to encourage you to consider it. You know, I think it's a nice little community that we've created, and I want to continue to see it grow and change over the years. So, you know, if you're hemming and hawing or questioning whether you should do it, you know, just read the guidelines. You'll see that I am not intimidating in any way, shape, or form. And I want to put out an inclusive journal that includes all different types of people from all different areas within the community. So that's my biggest thing. I have other books and stuff out there too, which are all on my website, but the Feminine Macabre is my little baby.
Yes,
it's my
exactly.
baby. Don't tell my real baby. No, it's fine. He knows. No, okay. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, and people should submit. I submitted to the first. I'm like, again, you're saying
it was
like,
great.
Thank you for taking a chance on me. That was the first time I've been published in like terms of occult or tarot. So like, That was a huge boost of confidence, especially in a time when I
Awesome.
really needed it. So,
Oh,
so that's
well,
my personal thank you to you.
oh, you're welcome. I loved it. So,
Well, thank you.
but
Yes.
obviously, if I didn't like it, I
Of
wouldn't
course.
have gone in.
I wouldn't be in there. Yeah, exactly.
But no, but absolutely. It just
Yeah.
shows, like, again, like if you've never been published before, or you're even like new to the occult or the, you know, the paranormal, metaphysical, like if you're interested in something, I've done so much research on spiritualism lately because I'm just interested in it. I'm not a
Yes.
spiritualist. I'm not a psychic medium. I
Mhm.
live near Lilydale, but that's all I've got going for me.
Right.
So, you know, so just,
Yeah.
you know, a bit of research can go a long way, and
Yeah.
yeah, be a part of it. Join us.
Join us. We're nice.
Come play with
Come
us.
play with us. I'll bring cookies.
Yeah, right?
All right. Well, amazing. Amanda, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. I
Of
appreciate
course.
it.
Of course.
Thank you all so much for watching and or listening, depending on where you are consuming this particular podcast. As a reminder, the Feminine Macabre Volume 3, their submission is open for another month. You have until January 1st of 2022 to submit a piece. So if you identify as female, whether cis or trans or non-binary, please submit a piece. Amanda is awesome, and take a risk. I took a shot. I submitted a piece on tarot and chaos magic, and she liked it and accepted it and put it in the journal. So I encourage you, if you're just getting started, don't worry if you don't have a huge pedigree behind you. Just write a cool piece and submit it. So thank you again for watching, and I hope you stay playful and curious.